This is the agency that administers Alabama's multi-million-dollar Medicaid program. Jack Worthington has been Medicaid's commissioner for approximately 1 year. Many employees here say Worthington sometimes hold back decisions on matters for months, tying up critical operations within the agency. Those same employees charge that Worthington's confidential assistant, Mrs. Patricia Norrell, was promoted over Medicaid employee Jim Harris because Norrell was helped by the commissioner. We've been supplied with a list of 84 Medicaid employees who left the agency since Worthington came on board. Many allegedly left because of Worthington's policy at Medicaid. Our information sources say if they were known to the commissioner, they would be fired. In an interview with Channel 12 News, Worthington says he took over an agency that was sluggish and had many workers who didn't like to be at work on time and didn't like to be without extended lunch hours. He also denies helping his assistant Norrell gain her promotion.
I have no personal involvement with either Mr. Harris or either Ms. Norrell. Personnel department evaluates on their own merits, and I certainly can't second guess the state personnel office.
Do you have any idea why 84 people in 12 months left your agency? You've been here a year. 84 people have left this jobs here in 12 months. And the turnover rate is about 40% within this agency, whereby it's 10% in other agencies. Do you have any idea why that is a fact?
Well, I don't know, Norman. I think maybe a change of environment has had something to do with it.
Could you explain it for me?
Such as the reading of newspapers that you mentioned yourself a few minutes ago. It is one of the operating policies today that individuals do not read newspapers on the job. This was permitted
when you came,
prior to my coming here. There were privileges such as extended lunch hours from 11:30 till 1:30, quarter till 2. A more relaxed environment existed prior to my coming to MSA. So the environment has changed for all employees, not some, but all employees. Many employees enjoyed working crossword puzzles on the job. And certainly this was recognized and it was stopped. This made some people uncomfortable, some people unhappy. Certainly, maybe those people were so unhappy they wanted to transfer. I don't know, Norman.
84 out of 200.
I don't know. We have exit interviews with every employee that leaves MSA.
Were you aware that a large number of people were leaving the agency?
Well, I didn't know that it was 84%.
Okay, other people here say that when something is submitted to you, policy changes from their particular divisions, they have to wait a long time. Some people have said that you have things here, or Ms. Norrell has things on her desk that have been here since October without any action.
I don't know of any of those things. If you were specific, I would respond to those.
Well, I can't be specific because the people would probably be fired if I told you who they were.
Well, I would hope that they would not be fired, but...
So you're saying crossword puzzles and extended lunch hours in newspapers have caused dissension here and people calling up the news media. Is that your explanation?
No, I didn't say that. I said the environment has changed. I was giving those examples as some of the ways that the environment has changed at MSA.
When told of the 40% turnover rate here at Medicaid, State Personnel Board Director Stanley Frazier said if he had that high rate of turnover, he would be concerned as to the reason why. But it appears that Commissioner of Medicaid Jack Worthington isn't concerned. This is Norman Lumpkin, WSFA TV News reporting.
The Attorney General's office.
Community Services Administration is the old OEO, the Office of Economic Opportunity. The name was changed in 1975, and it's primarily the agency designed to help people out of poverty and to help eliminate as much of poverty as we possibly can.
Can you give me an example of how your office would be helpful, particularly for the state of Alabama?
There are a variety of ways that we're already helping Alabama. There's a lot more ways it could be helped, but Alabama has to also want to help itself. Right now, we have several community action agencies. These are the local agencies that act as our agents out in the local communities. We give them 1/3 of the money that they need to operate, and they bring in 2/3 of their budget from other federal sources, state sources, county and city, and from the private sector. We don't give money, we don't write checks for poor people. We help them with their problems and with services. In addition to that, we have a community development corporation in Alabama, a very successful one. This program is designed to teach low-income people the ins and outs of the corporate world so that they can eventually learn to become capitalists. Capitalism is very good as long as you understand it and you use it to help other people. The idea behind our economic development projects is that we know that major corporations are not going to locate in low-income areas, in ghettos and barrios, for a variety of reasons. So the only way that we're going to bring employment into these areas is to let the people themselves learn what a corporation is like, develop acquisition skills, learn how to read a profit and loss statement, learn how to sell for profit, how to reinvest those profits, and how to keep expanding with the only purpose of creating employment for the people who live in that area for whom there is almost no employment available, and when there is no transportation available so they can get to the job. So we do two things. Right now, I think Alabama needs to get more involved in food programs, and although I'm not from the Department of Agriculture and I'm not professing to speak for them, I noticed that Alabama is not fully taking advantage of some of these food programs. And I'd like to point out that food stamps means food for poor people. It doesn't mean money. The money is made by the grocer, and I think the Retail Grocers Association should be very involved in making sure that food stamps are going to every eligible person. Because why shouldn't the grocer make a profit? Why shouldn't the poor person get food if they need it? And why shouldn't children be getting lunches and breakfast?
Oh, like the free lunch program in the schools?
Right. It's free for the child, but whoever sells the food gets paid for it.
Is Alabama taking advantage of that program?
Not fully. And that's why I said that we want to help people help themselves. And when we say people, we're really talking about everybody, the state, the county, the city, and its residents. Alabama still needs to get more involved. It's not a handout, it's not welfare, because the private sector is involved in furnishing the food for a profit. And look at all the employment that would be created. If you had a school lunch program, a school breakfast program, that means that people are going to have to be hired to prepare the food, to serve it, to clean up. That would contribute a lot to the economy because people will be earning money. The people who are furnishing the products are going to get paid for it, and the children are going to be healthy because they're going to be getting an adequate breakfast and a school lunch. So we need to get away from the stigma about federal programs. I'm not going to tell you that all federal programs are run well. You know, I'll be the first bureaucrat to tell you that there's a lot of room for improvement. But unless you all get involved at the local level, and unless you're all interested in making sure that they're being operated successfully, they will continue to be abused. It's up to you and the local communities, the governors, the county commissioners, the city mayors. Everybody has to get involved. I mean, we're all in this together, and it's cheaper, by the way, to do preventive work and preventive programs like school breakfasts and school lunches and food stamps than it is to take care of the effects of malnutrition on a child. The remedial program is twice as expensive as a preventive program. So I would urge you all to get involved in those programs. In the meantime, we're available to help you facilitate whatever you need and to act as your advocates in the Washington level. I don't think you need any because the Department of Agriculture has some excellent people in the state of Alabama. I met several of them from Auburn. We're there to help. We're there to facilitate things for you. And not all bureaucrats are bad.
As the director of the agency, what would you say would be one of the most important issues that you face?
Right now, I would say meeting the needs of 7 million Americans who are handicapped and who qualify as poor or low income. In other words, who fall within the poverty guidelines as established by the federal government. We need to do several things, and that is to remove physical barriers so that handicapped people have access to employment. There's a myth or an attitude, a feeling, misconception that because a person is physically handicapped, their mind doesn't work. And I believe it's your governor who says some people are paralyzed from the waist down, but some people are paralyzed from the neck up. And I think that's a very true exposition of how people feel about handicap. We're very interested. We've discovered that there are a lot of handicapped who are capable of performing great work. I mean, after all, we did have a president by the name of Roosevelt who was handicapped, and he was able to be the president. We're saying that the thing that we need to remove also is the mental barriers that people have about handicap. And one of the things that I'd like to see done in this country is to have everything adjusted so that handicapped people, and this includes even arthritic people, to remove the doorknobs and put levers. Because sometimes a lever can be opened with a shoulder, and if all you have is a stump, you can still open the door if it has a lever. I'd like to see the faucets changed in every bathroom in the country.
How would you have them?
Oh, haven't you seen these new faucets that are also designed to conserve water? What you do is you hit them, and they open up, but they shut off by themselves. And that can be operated by somebody without a hand, without fingers, without mobility in their hands. There's a lot of things. Listen, this country is not dumb. We've developed a lot of technology. We're just not utilizing it. And I think we need to have special arrangements for blind people, deaf people, all kinds of people, because they could eliminate 7 million people from the poverty rolls if we would just make these changes, and they're not that expensive.
And then there are the millions who are on the poverty rolls because they are poor. Is there a stigma attached to being poor?
Oh, yes. Remember, poor is a 4-letter word, and that's the way people are treated. And I find it more prevalent. I guess all of a sudden it's come home to me because people ask me if I have faced any discrimination in Washington by virtue of being a woman or by virtue of being a minority. And I tell them, no, neither one of them give me problems. It's not until people find out that I'm the director of the poverty agency that people look at me like saying, why did you take a job like that? So there's still, in spite of my salary and my position in the government, people still treat me like a poor person.
The Senate Finance and Taxation Committee reported out Governor Wallace's property tax relief measures. The House had passed them the day before. There was discussion on the package, but the Senate committee moved the measures quickly to the Senate floor for debate. The constitutional amendments would reduce the rate at which property is assessed from 15% to 10% for residential and farm property, and from 25% to 15% on commercial property. Utilities would remain at 30%. Autos, pickup trucks, and the like would be assessed at 15% instead of the 25%. In addition, companion measures of the bill would assess property at current use value and would exempt up to $700,000 retail inventories. The homestead exemption formula would also be affected.
The first exemption of $2,000 is for everyone, regardless of age. That over age 65 does have a limitation of $5,000 on assessed value. So which means that if someone over age 65 owns a home worth more than $50,000, then they would have to pay tax on the county level. But this is not true now with the state level. The state law did require that anyone having an income of $5,000 and the assessed value of $5,000, then they were not exempt. But that new law would exempt them totally from all tax on ad valorem for state level, but not on the county level.
The House Ways and Means Committee adopted another education budget. James Sasser of Ozark is a member of that committee.
We adopted a substitute to the Senate version of the budget. It's basically the governor's original budget with some amendments that was placed on by the Ways and Means and on the floor of the House. I think the important thing is that the budget is about $5 million in proration. But the Speaker, Mr. Joe McCorkadale, came before the committee and urged us to adopt an amendment which would, in essence would say that we would be prorated at 0.0052%, which is 52 cents on each $100, unless the money is available. If the money is available, then the money that's appropriated in the bill, of course, would be forthcoming.
The same House committee killed the TVA bill when efforts were made to put an amendment to include a redistribution of state liquor profit back into the bill. Both houses are expected to get an early start working tomorrow, which could be the day for adjournment. George Mitchell, WSFA TV News, the state legislature.
I want to state that the reason that that gentleman was not confirmed in my judgment was because he had indicated a lack of judgment and constraint and respect for due process and law and order, to the extent that this Senate, a majority of those at least, did not feel that he was suited to continue in that position. Here, in the last 1 or 2 weeks, even though that gentleman is no longer a member of the commission, we see that in violation of the rules and resolutions of the Ethics Commission that he formerly was the chairman of, that he has again furnished to the press information and a demand for investigation and prosecution of a man running for public office of the state of Alabama. If they hope to continue to be a viable, forceful governmental agency, then they have got to stop being used by certain individuals for political purposes.
Under State Ethics Commission law, those officials who fail to submit their statements of economic interest to the Commission must answer to the state's Attorney General. Melvin Cooper, Executive Director of the Commission, said the majority of those who have not complied are city and county officials, with a lesser number of them state officials.
We submitted the last report to the Commission at today's meeting, and there were 31 state employees, let me check here, 10 City Board of Education members, 20 city councilmen, 2 mayors. We're down to 2 mayors out of 422, 91 city employees in the major cities, 2 commissioners, county commissioners, all probate judges filed, 7 board members, 5 tax collectors have not filed, 6 hospital board members have not filed, county hospital board members, and 10 employees of boards of education. And under the law, at this point, I have no alternative but to refer these names to the Attorney General's office, and I've been working with the Attorney General's office this afternoon on the matter.
What will the Attorney General's office be required to do?
Attempt to make one last effort from our conversation to contact these individuals and ascertain why they chose not to comply with the law.
Okay, the commission went into executive session following the open session.
That's
what
right.
can you tell me that transpired in there?
I'm sorry, I can't make any comment at all on the matters they discussed in executive session.
Can you tell me at all if Senator Joe Fine's name came up in this session?
No, I can't. I'm sorry, I can't.
Following the executive meeting, reporters were able to learn that the Ethics Commission would begin an investigation of State Senator Joe Fine's alleged involvement in coal sales affecting the Alabama Power Company. Reports say that during the executive session, the Commission's executive director, Melvin Cooper, told the Commission that there were two questions to be decided in the investigation: whether Fine lied on his financial disclosure forms filed with the Commission, and whether he used his office as senator for personal gain. The Commission's anticipated investigation was prompted by reports that Fine received some $25,000 in commissions and broker's fees on coal sales to the Southern Services Company, which buys coal for Alabama Power. Cooper reportedly told the Commission that Fine has asked for time to amend his financial disclosure forms to reflect $15,000 income on coal sales in 1976 and $10,000 in 1977. Senator Fine has called a news conference tomorrow in Montgomery. George Mitchell, WSFA TV News.
Well, Governor Wallace suggested that I do that, and I value his political judgment. I was in agreement with him, my own political assessment of the campaign, that it was a good thing for me to do.
Now, you talked to the Secretary of State about it. What indication did you get from her on whether it would be possible or not?
Well, I had talked to the state headquarters yesterday and talked to the printing companies that have the ballots, and I was told that if I could get made a change today, that today and tomorrow would not be too late. The Secretary of State's office indicated that it might possibly be too late for it to be on some ballots. So at this time it appears that there may be a name change on some counties. In some counties my name may appear both ways, as a matter of fact.
Was your primary motive behind this to influence more votes?
Well, it was a consideration, but it was not what made the decision for me. Was that I felt that this is probably the last time that George Wallace's name will appear on a ballot in the state of Alabama, or most likely. And I felt it was a fitting tribute to a man who has done many great things for the people of Alabama and for the state of Alabama.
You said Governor Wallace advised you on this. How much has he advised you so far?
I prefer not to make any other comment than the statement I've made.
I mean, has it been much or little? Or?
Well, I stand by that, really.
Rather, it's been my accusers who's violated the law. It's they that are guilty of violating the very same laws that they've sworn to uphold. The story of an investigation of me by the Ethics Commission yesterday was deliberately leaked to the paper, contrary to whatever the executive director says. The director says, the lies continue. I didn't ask for any continuance of any investigation by the Ethics Commission. I didn't ask to delay so that I could amend my ethics statement. That's just another lie that they've told. Bobby Black, who is one of the finest men that lives in Montgomery County and a respected attorney, is here with me today. He was quoted yesterday in the paper, and I'm going to let him speak for himself.
Thank you, Joe. I deny that I requested on behalf of Senator Fine that he be allowed to amend his Ethics Commission report in any fashion. I deny that I stated Senator Fine would withdraw that request if the press was notified, or that I asked that the investigation be postponed for even one day. Now, reference is made to the Alabama Journal article of Tuesday. If Mr. Cooper made those representations to the Ethics Commission, he is not telling the truth. I believe that Mr. Cooper himself will tell you I did not make those representations. If he doesn't, he is not leveling with you.
There's two sets of standards being used by the Ethics Commission on Joe Fine. It's my understanding during the history of the Ethics Commission that there's never been a denial of a request for a continuance in any cases before them. Yet they've never given Joe Fine an opportunity to reply. They've never given Joe Fine an opportunity to request a continuance or anything else. The stories leaked yesterday was just another mudslinging attempt to smear me politically. They think they can keep me from winning without a runoff, and that's the reason they all run around in a fury, and that's the reason that you got it leaked when it was leaked. It was a political ploy. It was engineered and executed at the urging of the ousted chairman, Mr. Alto Lee.
The senator from Russellville and President Pro Tem of the Alabama Senate read a 5.5-page prepared statement. Senator Joe Fine, candidate for Attorney General, denied he has violated the state ethics law. He accused Alto Lee of Dothan, the former chairman of the State Ethics Commission, of stealing certain documents from the commission's files and releasing the information. Fine said testimony by Russellville businessman T.W. Trapp concerning his alleged influence in coal sales to Alabama Power's parent company contained outright lies. Fine said Trapp's charge was not grand jury testimony.
I'm not a sensitive person, but I resent Mr. Lee's illegal use of the Ethics Commission to do as he had threatened on numerous occasions to get Joe Fine. I resent him using lies. I resent him stealing certain documents from the files of the Ethics Commission and then leaking them to the Montgomery Advertiser. Mr. Lee stole this testimony, which appeared in print Sunday, and that's a fact. In no other way could it have been in his possession. I again deny I've done anything wrong. I have not violated any laws. I have violated no ethics regulations. And I think that you know Joe Fine well enough to know that I'm not stupid enough if I was going to take a payoff that I'd take it in a check that the Montgomery Advertiser could spread all over the front page. Rather, it's been my accusers who's violated the law. It's they that are guilty of violating the very same laws that they've sworn to uphold. The story of an investigation of me by the Ethics Commission yesterday was deliberately leaked to the paper, contrary to whatever the executive director says. The director says, the lies continue. I didn't ask for any continuance of any investigation by the Ethics Commission. I didn't ask to delay so that I could amend my ethics statement. That's just another lie that they've told. I have asked that my attorneys investigate the criminal laws in this state and see if any criminal laws have been violated by any former member of the Ethics Commission, any present member of the Ethics Commission, any employee of the Ethics Commission. If they have violated the law, I'm going to see that a warrant's sworn out for them. I'm going to see that they're prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. I've also asked them to check the civil laws and see what my civil rights are and see if any civil suits would lie against any former member, any present member, or any employee of the Alabama Ethics Commission, and I'm dead serious. We're going to pursue that, and you better believe that I'm going to pursue it.
Fine refused to answer questions but left hurriedly, saying he would be on a handshaking tour of a steel mill near Birmingham, and if anyone wanted to see him, they could see him there. Dallas County District Attorney Bob Morrow, one of Fine's opponents for Attorney General, who was present at the news conference, said the senator's refusal to answer questions showed he couldn't stand the heat being generated. George Mitchell, WSFA TV News.
Keith Waldrop started the third and final round one shot off the lead, but he made up ground quickly as second-round leaders Talbert Griffin and David Northington struggled on the front nine. Griffin shot a 2-over par 38 on the first 9 holes. Northington had even more problems with a 5-over par 41 on the front 9, and that's where Waldrop made his move. Waldrop played the front 9 in 3 under par, and he barely let up the rest of the way. Waldrop didn't pick up his first bogey until the final hole of the day, and by that time, Waldrop was way out in front. With a final round of 68, Keith Waldrop finished with a 2-over par for the tournament, a 54-hole score of 215. Northington found his game again on the back 9. He finished in second place, but 6 strokes behind Waldrop. Griffin fell into a third-place tie with Tom Towie, 7 strokes off the pace. Earlier in the day, Karen Clark won the girls' championship for 15 to 17-year-olds, a 6-stroke victory over Nancy Ledbetter. Dan O'Brien, WSFA TV Sports.